Over the past month and a half, I've been uploading a daily short on my Minecraft hardcore world, and during this time, you guys have asked me to name some items after you. But it was going to take a whole lot more than just a short to complete all these requests. So welcome to the Minecraft hardcore naming episode. On screen now is everything I needed to name. A lot of these weren't too difficult, but bringing some of these mobs back to my base would take up a whole lot more time than I imagined it would. And while I did do some other things while filming this video, I'm primarily going to focus on how I named and obtained all the requests. And it all began when I saw a skeleton horse. So I triggered the spawn event and carefully took out all the skeletons. I then moved all the horses behind the wall of my base, acquiring the first mob I needed. A little while after, I was about to do some trading with my villagers when I heard a phantom. At first I was going to shoot it when I remembered that I had a request for one to be named. I rushed up to the roof of my house and made a small room for it to fly into. And sure enough, it flew straight into my trap. I tried trapping it in a boat, but didn't have any luck. So I started to block off more and more of the area until it had nowhere to go but in the boat. Once it was in, I traded for a name tag, renamed it, and named this phantom Phantom. I made a small containment unit out of obsidian and iron bars before releasing the phantom and adding a sign with a name, finishing off my first request. I decided to work on building this next, so I began and built the toilet using quartz, adding a wither head to an armor stand to complete it. But I wasn't happy with the placement, so I changed some things around until it looked like this. The last thing to do was add a sign, marking it as complete. I then got some of the easier requests done, placing down a sign named Goofy and a diamond sword named Nightfell. I decided to relocate all the items on this wall before continuing on and naming a bow named Goldsat Sniper, a stick named Meme Guy the Great, a wood pickaxe named The First, a diamond pickaxe named Natique, a potato named Lee after this guy's dad, and lastly, a diamond sword named Raise My Sword. Next up, I started to build a grave for this person here. I made it out of stone bricks and finished it off by adding a sign named GG. Maybe one day I'll build a full graveyard, but for now, I went to head out and gather some of the mobs that were needed. I decided to start off with cats, as I had one at base, but I needed 3 more for all the requests. So I headed downriver, as I knew there was a village not far. I found my first cat pretty much straight away, and after searching around the village for a little while, I found a second. I couldn't see any more, so I sat the cats down and travelled for a while, before coming across another village. I searched around for a while and found and tamed 2 cats before heading back to base, standing up the cats I tamed previously on the way. After I ran back to base, I named all the name tags, and after a lot of pushing the cats around, I started to name them. Swadheen, Flaming Fire, Coricho, and Molly. At this point, I thought that one of the most difficult mobs to bring back to base was going to be a frog, as the nearest swamp was about 3,000 blocks away. However, there was another mob that would prove to be an absolute nightmare to obtain, but I'll get into that later, as for now, I wanted to name some of the mobs that I already had in the base. I added names to name tags and started off with pigs. Nan Diab, Charlie, Finn, and finally, a few of you have requested that I name a pig after Technoblade, so that's exactly what I did. I then named 3 more name tags and went to name a villager Thomas. I then named a sheep Bob, followed by naming a horse Pea Shooter. After this, I prepared my inventory and headed out towards the swamp to bring back a frog. I went through my nether portal, and I knew that the portal to the stronghold wasn't too far away from the swamp, so I went through it. I mined up to the surface and made my way towards the swamp. I spent the entire night running around and fighting mobs. It was only when it started to get light that I finally saw a frog, so I trapped it in a boat and started the journey back to base. I spent a long time trying to see if there were any rivers that connected to my base, but I didn't find one and I forgot to bring a lead, so I couldn't just guide it along. I decided to try and bring it back through the nether, using the portal in my stronghold. Once I was in the area, I dug a large hole leading down to the portal, and once it was built, I dropped down in a boat before bringing the frog to the nether. I started to work on building a walkway that I could row the boat down when I made a really stupid mistake. With the frog dead, I decided to head back to base, defeated for the time being. I was hoping to get all the requests done before day 100, and that was a huge blow to timing, so I focused on getting some of the easier requests done before attempting to get another frog. I headed out, looking for wolves, and after a fair bit of exploring, I came across a tiger biome and spotted a small group of them. There were 4 in total, and after taming them I headed back until we got in a fight with some zombies. After we took them all out, I went to heal the wolves when 2 of them bred, which was actually a good thing as I needed 4 more of them. When I returned, I bred some more of the wolves before naming a whole lot of name tags and naming all the wolves. Dodgy Dog, Alexio, Miko, Bob, whatever this says, Marley, Paquito, and finally, Figgy. I had a request for a piglin to be named, so I built it a room that I could trap it in just outside of my portal, and after heading to the nether, I saw a crossbow piglin and lured it through the portal. It transformed into an undead piglin and I hit it to lure it into its room, naming it on the way. I failed the first time, but I gave it another go and finally trapped it. I'll give it a better spot in the future, but for now I wanted to focus on naming. And next up were iron golems, so I placed down the iron blocks and started to name them. First off was Amy 2, as I already had an iron golem named Amy from a previous request. Then Saf 1, and finally Mystical Darkness. I added an emerald to the wall of items, with the name Corb. I named 2 name tags before building 2 guard posts on my roof for snow golems. I then summoned them and named the snow golems Jax and Kyla Bro. I built another room next to the piglin, as the next request was a strider. I headed into the nether and crafted a warp fungus on a fishing rod before heading down to lava. I saw a strider and started to bring it back to the overworld. When we returned, it was raining, so I built some cover leading to its room and trapped it before naming it Erg. It looked kinda sad when it wasn't in lava, and I felt bad, so I headed back to the nether, grabbed a bucket of lava and placed it down in its temporary room. And this led me to the last 2 requests, which were a frog and a camel. These would prove to be an absolute nightmare, I just didn't know it yet. So I explored one of the directions I hadn't searched before, and while it was the right area for a desert, I just couldn't find one. So much so that it took me all the way into day 99. So I wasn't going to get all the requests done before day 100, but I wanted to be back at base for the day, so I built a nether portal and started heading back. When I returned, it was day 100. I didn't do anything particularly special for day 100, other than roaming around my base, looking at all the progress that was made since day 1. What I do want to say is thank you to everyone for all the support on this series. When I first started up, I didn't think that it would get much attention, but the amount of support you guys have given me has been overwhelming, and words can't say how much I appreciate it. I started off with just 0 followers, and now, across all platforms, I'm on 4,178. I hope that I can keep making content for you guys for as long as I can, so thanks to you all, whether it be on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. But I still needed to name a camel and a frog, and I wasn't just going to give up on that, no matter how long it took. So I spent nearly the entire day preparing for this potentially long journey, gathering a whole load of obsidian for nether portals and brewing up a range of potions so that I was prepared for every possible situation. Once my inventory and ender chest were ready, I went to the nether and started my journey. The plan was to exit the nether every now and then to see if I could spot a desert biome. The first 2 portals didn't amount to anything, and I couldn't spot anything after the third one. However, I decided to continue travelling in the overworld, as I was definitely seeing the right range of biomes to find a desert. In spite of that, it took me an hour and a half before I finally spotted a desert as I was travelling through the ocean, and at this point, I was around 30,000 blocks away from base. But at least I finally found one, and after exploring for a little while, I came across a village where I slept through the night, and just after, I finally saw a camel. For some reason I thought that it would despawn without a name tag, so I named it with the name tag intended for the frog. I hadn't played Minecraft for about 5 years prior to this series, so I'm a little rusty with my knowledge. I came across another village and found another camel. You best believe that I was taking this camel too, as if I'm bringing a camel all the way back to base, I'm taking 2, as I don't want to have to make this trip twice. After some more exploring, I finally had some good luck, as in the distance I saw a mangrove swamp, which meant I could bring a frog and a camel back at the same time. I built a hut so my camels wouldn't wander away and brought 2 frogs back to the same hut. And this is where things get a little crazy, as my plan was to build a tunnel in the nether which would be about 4,000 blocks long, so that I could transport the camels and the frogs safely back to the base. This would take a long time, especially considering I didn't have a netherite pickaxe. But I was determined to get them back to base and finish off all the requests. And it came with a whole heap of problems. But I didn't give up, and I even managed to upgrade and break my main pickaxe on accident whilst doing this. But after about 4.5 hours of digging, I finally completed the tunnel. So I headed back to the desert. After some effort, I brought the camels and the frogs to the nether and started the trip back to base. And after a little while, we were all back in the overworld, back home. Just for now, I trapped the frogs in a hole and tied the camels to a fence, and finally named a frog Destroyer of Worlds, and a camel Jimmy, completing all the requests. Nearly. If anyone watched my first update video, you'll know I was planning on a build to add names to, and the idea came from this person here who suggested I build a tree to put names on, and that's a great idea. However, I suck at building trees. So over the course of the video, I've been growing huge tiger trees to cover with signs that have names on them after you guys. So the very first sign is going out to Max, who suggested the idea. I'm sorry this video took so long, but everything took way longer than I thought it would, especially getting all those camels and frogs back to base. But in the end, it was all worth it, and over the next few days, I'll be focusing on giving all these named items a real home, which should be a pretty fun project. I won't be taking any more requests for the time being, however, if you'd like your name added to the trees, just comment below and let me know. This series will be going back to being a short series, unless another long project comes up. So I ended day 129 by going to sleep. Thanks for watching, drop a like and subscribe for the next episode of Minecraft Hardcore.